The ghost surrounds her. This is scary. Hello, hello. Welcome to... I don't know how to say the title. Dicentra?
Dicentra.
Welcome to Dicentra. And I really was just wandering around and it had such a pretty cover. I was like, I'm intrigued. And a little bit more information on this wonderful little game. Dicentra. I've landed myself right in the mouth of a carnivorous flower with the sweetness of shelter to lure me in. And look at this. I mean, this screams things are going to happen. Now, of course, Dicentra is a gothic horror visual novel. You play as Basil, a young boy lost in the forest of watching trees and unfriendly guides. In a harsh storm, his only sanctuary is a seemingly abandoned mansion. He doesn't know if anyone or anything currently haunts these walls. But there is one thing he can conclude. He shouldn't have come here. Like already, you're seeing the art. Look at that. Clearly, I'm guessing a character we're going to meet is Dove. Dove may not be what she seems. And something else in our playthrough. Okay. Ooh, look at that forest. Beautiful. How do I... Ooh, what? What was that? There was something else. That looks like a truly terrifying scene. But anyways, 10K, 10 hand-drawn backgrounds, which, realizing that's a hand-drawn, that's a lot of work. Time choices, some minor jump scares, and content warning. Intended for 17+ audience, content with blood, death, violence, unhealthy relationships between characters, and horrific imagery. Be warned, it is not for things of uncomfortability. Anyone under 17. Player's discretion is advised. And of course, there is the Ko-Fi if you'd like to support the development of the game. And our credits. And of course, I'm getting this from I don't know. One of the two. There's a Mac and PC download. Ooh, apparently there's been a recent progress report. I'm curious. Oh, look at the ducky. And is that a puddle? Huh. Lots of progress. Ooh, more chapters. Alright, about chapter 4. So I'm guessing either chapter 4 or there's got to be a chapter 5 as well. Curious. But hey, if they're able to finish it before spooky time ends, bravo. Clearly they're excited that the demo's going well. So, let's go see what happens in Dicentra. And even look at that, having it blow around the candles, the light. What seems to be hands coming out of the painting and blobs and stuff that are bursting through the darkness. So, let's proceed in. Hello? Content warning. Just to make sure you understand. It's not going to be comfortable. Alrighty. Content warning done. Oh yeah, and I do need to worry about time choices, so maybe I should use the mouse. There we go. Ooh. Ooh. There's a whole lot to see right now. But I want to hear even the music playing. Wow. This is beautiful. I'm gonna be really distracted by this because wow. Okay, and proceed on because first and foremost, the music, that was a startling change from the opening, and then realizing this is hand drawn. Look at the trees. I mean, they're similar, but they all curve together, and you see the red and the tiny little bits and the mushrooms growing on it. And I realized when I looked over here, I thought that was like faces in the background. I don't know if it's intentional or if I'm just saying stuff. And then look at the UI design. Little mushrooms, little flowers. Ooh, sleek design, beautiful. Okay, proceed on. I'm just gonna be enthralled by the just design of this creation. And we can keep it off to the side. Ooh, I didn't even realize. Ooh, which you can't see, but if you load the game up, even the game icon looks kind of like a heart, but it's not quite. It's something else. Oh, it looks like stained glass with something in the middle. Ooh. Okay, proceed on. I drag myself through the rain. Why isn't it working? Hello. I drag myself through the rain. It blurs my vision, forcing me to feel my way through the forest, wind crushing against me from all sides. Prayer is my only form of navigation, but I think the blood running through my veins prevent me from landing in God's graces. Huh. I fumble over the tangle of roots and slip over wet moss. My bones instantly shudder from the cold shock running through my nails as I grab onto a nearby rock. Pathetic whine escapes my throat. My grandmother would have bawled if she could see me now. Aren't you like a young kid that we're playing as? Why is your grandma so mean to you? I can hear her snide remark already. See what happens when you don't listen to me? As if I wouldn't survive long enough to hear the real deal. Sniffle in frustration and try to shake the feeling away with the rain dripping down my face. She's always right, of course. I mean, it sucks when someone else is correct, but it's like, what is it going to do you in this situation right now? Just push the thought off for later. For just a moment, my defiance had given me everything I wanted. Lost in thought, I lose control of my limbs. I'm not used to using them all at once. It's hard, it throws me back into the slick earth. Using all your limbs. Oh, maybe you've been like sick for a while and now you're up and walking. Now I really want to cry. The storm is harsh. A thick canopy of trees above me does little to shield me from its rage. They passively turn their leaves away instead, tempting me to scream my grandmother's harshest curse at them. Blippins! Am I losing it? I shakily lift myself from the ground, snorting weakly into a puddle. In the middle of summer, it sure is pouring hard. The rain feels like shards of ice against my skin. I watch it distort the reflection in the puddle with ripples. In the brief moments where the reflection almost settles, I see piercing yellow eyes, dark fur, and wilted ears, sleek and clinging to the vulnerable small form of a wolf pup. Wait, are we a werewolf? The voice of my grandmother hisses in my mind. What have you done, Basil? Okay, so we're a wolf? Okay. I need to get back home. Oh, look at that. I don't know if you saw it, but the little wolf's eye actually changed a moment. Oh. I tear away from the puddle and trek on. Please, something lead me back home. Something. Anything. Maybe it's risky to ask this force, though. Because something answers. It's so faint that I question if it's even real. A howl cuts through the wind. Or perhaps it's the wind that shrinks away from the sound that ambles through. Fighting my way through the storm has exhausted my body. The frontal lobe of my brain begins to neglect its responsibility to remember what reason is. That's really specific to put that. Are we... But anyways. All my instincts scream to ignore it. My heart, a stupid, curious thing, makes me take a step forward. My fuzzy ears pick up the heavy sounds of my heart beating. I try to convince myself it's because of my fear. I need to focus on where the howling's coming from. As I get closer to the sound, it begins to resemble crying. The storm has started to retract its claws. Was the force showing mercy? Or has it submitted to something more formidable? I've lived in the woods my whole life. Should know better than anyone to never get too comfortable. A red light perforates the dark atmosphere. Swallow harshly. There's a mansion in the middle of the woods. Yeah, already that does not sound like a normal business to magically be, especially after a storm. Ooh, and look at that still, that circular curving, and even look at the moon. What is the moon doing? Oh wow, this is freaking cool. From a distance, it would look abandoned. If not for the hazy red light coming from the rooftop. I'm guessing that's where we need to go. Squint. Is that a greenhouse? Shadowy figure moves quickly behind its clear walls, startling me. I duck into the tall and neglected grass that grows in the mansion's yard. After a short while, I peek through the blades. The shadow is gone. Did I imagine it? You'd probably assume it is something. I release a nervous sigh and observe the grounds for any sign of life or death. It was a bad idea to come here. A terrible one, even. I can't stay here. Well, at least our character seems like they're thinking it through now. I retreat back into the shadow of the forest, keeping the mansion in my line of sight. The moment I feel bold enough to turn my back against it, a powerful gale slams into me. I tumble back hard, skidding across the ground into the tall grass of a cry. It takes me a moment to recover from my swirling vision. I let out a whimper as pain blooms from my arm. It's too dark to see clearly. It swells up when I try to move. Oh no, you got an injury. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. I grit my teeth and get back to my feet, keeping my weight off my arm as I make for the forest again. Again, I'm denied entrance by the mysterious force. Panic starts to seep through my bones. I almost wish I could go back to feeling hopeless. I stare at the trees as though they've suddenly started playing nicely. But being as ancient as them, do not bend to anyone's will but their own. The wind gives one more shove. It insists I move forward. I bare my adolescent fangs at it to smother the hurt. I know now that my choices were nothing but illusions. I wanted a cookie. It's a big cookie, but it has protein, so it's like, yeah. I bare my adolescent fangs at it to smother the hurt. I know now my choices were nothing but illusions. I face the mansion once again. It's clear that something, or someone, from the inside is inviting me in. We are totally screwed. With no other choice, I creep along the worn brick walls of the mansion and try to find a way in. Ooh. Options, which sounds like a time we should be putting saves and lovely little hearts everywhere. Well, let's see. Eeny, miny, miny, mo. Which one shall we pick? To the window, to the cellar, to somewhere else. I mean, why don't we do the cellar? If we can dispel the creepiness first, eh? I find a door to the cellar. The wood looks rotten, but it doesn't give when I put my weight on it. It's also too heavy for me to open without thumbs. I swear the game did not mention that we were a wolf, but I guess we're going with it. Can I go back to the cellar? Oh, okay, well, try the window then. I spy a broken window and see a gauzy white curtain thrashing against the glass from the intruding storm. Sadly, it's too high for me to climb, and there's no way I can jump. What? You can't jump when you're a wolf? So I guess we're gonna go somewhere else then. Can I try the window? Well, it didn't do anything, so let's just go somewhere else then. A faint knocking grabs my attention. I pad to the back of the mansion, and my saving grace comes in the form of a door left slightly ajar. Not suspicious at all. Ooh, pretty. Aha! I nudge my nose into the tiny gap, and relief washes over me when it parts. Then... the creakiness. An ear-piercing screech echoes the mansion as the hinges begin to shift. From the looks of it, they haven't moved for a long time. A feeling of ice floods my veins. I stay frozen in the doorway. If this mansion is inhabited, there's no way I didn't just announce my entrance. Because it's either bad for you, or bad for them, or just a mixture of bad all around. Fear takes over again. My back paw intuitively steps back so I can attempt to run as far from this place as I can. Shaka-boom! Sound of thunder explodes behind me. I feel my body take on life of its own as I throw myself into the mansion against my will. The door slams on my way in. I breathe shallowly when I come to my senses. I'm in a kitchen. Ooh, and now everything's red from the outside. Spooky. It's dark inside the house. The only source of light comes from the windows above the counters. Everything beyond its reach is a void. I see a kitchen table and crawl towards it, scratching my nails along the musty wood flooring in a rush to get beneath it. I stay under the table as my breathing starts to return to a normal pace. My eyes are wide and my ears are perked up, on the lookout for anything that could be a threat. I'm seeing that. I don't know if we should be concerned yet. The only sounds I pick up are the heavy drum of rain from the outside and the occasional creak of the mansion walls, breathing in the night air. And I'm confident there's no sign of life inside this manor. I crawl back into the open and immediately shake off as much rain and mud as I can. I let myself celebrate the minor luxury of finally escaping the mauls of the weather. But I don't let my nerves calm down just yet. As soon as my eyes adjust better to the dark, I take the time to study my surroundings more. I notice a hearth that lacks any recent maintenance. Dishes crowd the counter, and a thick layer of dust forces me to smother a sneeze. This place hasn't been occupied in a long time. Surely I can allow myself to breathe just a little bit easier in this space. At least until the storm wanes. I bring in a deep inhale, being careful not to get any dust, and tread cautiously. Ooh, so there's candles on the floor, paintings. Is that scribbles along the wall? As I stalk further in, I hold my breath at every corner, carefully looking in all directions for danger. The rest of the mansion is as devoid of life as the kitchen. Most of the rooms have closed doors. The ones I could see in were graciously empty, sans the Delaric furniture within. Barely anything is in decent shape. Couldn't guess how long it's been since a human lived in this manor. Based on the scratched hardwood floors and the broken but intricate-looking side table nestled in a dark corner, I have the impression that this place was neglected even when it was occupied. My nails tap on the floor as I limp into the hall. My mind settling from all the adrenaline. The ache in my front leg starts to swell. The heat of my body intensifies the pain. Paintings line the walls from end to end, but it's hard to see them in the dark. Through glimpses of light, I could make out some faded landscapes, a few mountains, some castles, and a couple of portraits. One portrait in particular catches my eye. I stop in front of it. I stare at the portrait, foolishly thinking it was staring right back. Surely it's just the slight fever settling in and making me come up with silly things. You hear that too, right? I don't think I've lost my mind just yet, though. As I observe the side profile of a pale woman, I notice that she's eerily the most realistic painting I've seen so far. When she turns her head to look down at my tiny form, every hair on my body goes stiff. Her lovely features, captured in oil, begin to melt off as she steps out of the painting. Smooth ivory skin shrivels to a deathly pallor. The elaborate gown clinging to her sharp shoulders begins to rot as her torso parts open like a blooming rose, revealing decaying bone and organs that run down her skirt like horrific decor. Hello, wow, this is great. I immediately start running away as fast as I physically can. As I scramble to get away on my hurt leg, I hear something that might be worse than a ghost. The woody and spicy scent of incense fills the humid air, creating a hazy purple fog. The sound of chains moving in a controlled rhythm rattles me to the marrow of my bones. Footsteps follow shortly after, growing louder alongside the clanking chains. It's coming from the staircase. My breath quickens. I slide to a halt and backtrack away from the sounds. I look behind and see the glowing apparition of the woman's hunched form stumbling towards me, dragging a trail of gore with a wet squelch. Hide. I need to hide. But where? My eyes dart across every inch of the hallway, desperately searching for a small sanctuary. The footsteps right behind me. The ghost is right in front of me. This hallway now feels like a tomb. All the doors are firmly shut. I press against the wall, my heart skipping a beat when I notice a faint tapping sound coming from behind me. I turn around and witness the outline of a door revealing itself. I waste no time shoveling my muzzle between the cracked, wretched open. As soon as I pry the door open, I hurl myself through, back into the darkness. I walk backwards away from the door, keeping my eye on it. I'm so focused on the door that I bump into something cold and almost trip over it. I look up and see a dark iron staircase curling up to a high ceiling. A hatch near the top is open, letting the rain from the outside drip down onto the cold metal. I don't know if I skipped something. Okay, I thought I did. Anyways. Ooh, what a beautiful staircase, though. But I have to wonder, is it going up to the garden? Oh. I hear footsteps once again, this time much louder. I don't dare to breathe or move. Hey, you, I knew something was happening. There you are. The voice startles me into moving. No way was I about to stick around and find out what fate awaits me. Every fiber of my being is ringing with danger as I climb the stairs, but with only adrenaline instructing my limbs. I drag myself up the iron steps until I'm bursting onto the roof and back into the storm. I'm not thinking anymore. I see the greenhouse I had spotted earlier and sprint towards it as fast as I can. I search for a small space to crawl into, tripping over a mess of vines along the way. Thunder and lightning roar above me. A bright flash of white blinds me. I can feel my claws scratch against the wet tiles. The door slams shut in the distance, causing a rippling effect in the walls and reaching the rooftop. When the rippling stops, everything goes quiet. The energy of the manor shifts completely. Jolt of lightning from the storm makes my first stand, changes or charges the air and saturates it with the smell of ozone. Shake the rain from my face. The whole world has fallen silent, except for the sound of a chilling drip. Basil. I freeze. My eyes carefully follow the coil of dead roots on the gray floor of the greenhouse. Drip. I follow its trail all the way to the blood dripping on the dirty tiles and the pale feet beside it. Drip. My eyes climb the mysterious figure. I don't think I'll ever forget the sight before me for as short as I live. Drip. Lightning flashes brightly through the tall windows. Blooming rose bushes creep along them. White roses, speckled across its dark leaves like stars in the night sky. The bright flowers begin to bleed red before my very eyes. At the rose bush's crimson-soaked center, a small girl stands with her back towards me. Blood drips from a tiny bark bite marks all over her hands. A red flower bulb is crushed between her delicate fingers. I'm thinking she is not safe. Drip, drip, drip. Instead of a strong floral scent, the smell of burning paper and wilting lilacs floods my senses. Wine unwillingly crawls up my throat and cuts through the silence. Time resumes once again. The girl turns, her gaze piercing right through me. The bulb drops from her hand. She doesn't say a word. Her attention is mine, against my own will. Black dots begin to appear at the corner of my vision. The last thing I saw was her walking towards me. God, this is just creepy reading. Before everything faded to black. What is gonna happen? My fever is brutal throughout the night. I slip in and out of consciousness to flames beneath my skin and an ache I'd rather sleep off than face. I try to let my body go back to sleep. Strong hands force my jaws open and shove something down my throat. The intrusion makes me violently resist, but I'm far too weak to fend the intruder away. The dark takes me again into its arms once again. I wake to the tang of rusty metal and humid air. The unfamiliar sensation makes my eyes snap open. Beyond the small cage that holds me, it's dark and damp. I clench my jaw as I examine my surroundings. Soon my eyes fixate on the ghost staring at me from outside my metal prison. It's the little girl. Hey. You doing good? Like, well, shit. I yelp and throw my body backwards, hitting the back of the cage. I expect the bite of hard metal in my back, but something smooth bends around my shape instead. It hisses at me in response. I don't think it liked that very much. My claws scrape the cold floor of the cage as I spin. The bars beneath me morph into slithering vipers in defensive stances, each one baring their fangs in anger. What? Careful. Their venom will make the blood in your body solidify in seconds. That wouldn't be a very pleasant way to die. Excuse me? I look at the ghost in horror. I'm breathing so quickly that I'm convinced I'll die from a lack of oxygen. Or so I think. Vipers settle back into metal bars and I make myself small. I don't want to risk testing their patience again. The ghost is not a ghost, but a girl. Her hair looks like ink that's been violently knocked over and spilt onto the floor. It melts into her dark surroundings, contrasting her gray, sickly-looking skin. Her expression is blank. I see her hands tightly clutching her white gown. Do you bite? Do you, I want to ask? I reveal my teeth through a snarl and watch as she shows hers, a small smile. The fur along my spine stands up. She starts to move and I flinch. The girl crawls towards the cage and I curl my nails. She reaches for me. A pale hand passing between the bars without resistance. It stares right in front of my snout. It freezes right in front of my snout. Is she checking to see if I would really bite? Has she no fear? Offering her hand so fiercely in the presence of a beast? Which one of us is really the beast? I may only be a pup, but the sheer force of my jaw can pierce right through her palm. Oh, I repel. Thankfully, it did give that number, so I was just like, I pull my face away from her hand and see her startle from my peripheral vision. She pulls her hand back and holds it against her collar. My eyes lock with hers as she stares at me, her lips pressed together. It'll be hard for me to protect you if you were too scaredy cat to do as I say. My eyes snap back to the girl. I watch as he stands up, wipes her hands on her dress, not showing a single care about how dirty it's become. If you want to survive, you'll have to listen to my instructions. Okay, doggy? She tilts her head like she expects me to respond. Don't try to be brave. If you're smart, you'll stay careful. The others had too much fight in them. It made them foolish. Who are the others? My heart pounds in my chest from her words alone. She gives me another haunting smile. When your arm is better, I'll take you for a walk before he gets back. Who's he? Is this what she sounds like when she's excited? It's unsettling. She suddenly moves closer to the cage again. I jump and back away, just enough where I don't risk getting into trouble with the vipers again. Scent of burning parchment and wilting lilacs returns. A girl's hair falls from her shoulders. I expect ink to trickle down and dye her dress black. My name is Dove. All right. Horrible to meet you, Dove. Oh, I guess Chapter 1, Roses. How interesting. So you're introduced to this character who seems to be... Both of them may not be aware of the danger, or that one is truly the danger. I mean, for what scene we just got with Dove seems to say Dove is not quite human or a little girl. Something a bit more frightful. I spend the night nursing the dreads of my fever. When I first woken up, I didn't take notice of how much it had already been soothed. But now vague memories of violating hands surface in my thoughts. Did the girl, Dove, give me some kind of medicine during the height of my fever? Could be medicine, could be something entirely different. My body still feels uncomfortably warm. I rest my head on one arm and glance at the one that had been hurt earlier. The bandage is firmly wrapped around it. Not enough to cut off the blood flow, but enough to restrict its movements. Was this also Dove's handiwork? Sigh softly through my nose, and then close my eyes. Time passes ambiguously in the cage, with nothing to reference. I don't know if it's been mere hours or days. A bowl of water sits at the corner of my cage. I know from the dryness of my throat that I need to hydrate. I've yet to muster up the courage to approach the bars that slitter and rattle every so often. When I'm desperate enough to finally quench my thirst, the bars relievingly keep their metal forms. Feeling better now, I curl into a ball. My tail cradles my face. I wanna go home. Exhaustion catches up with me once again. I fall asleep on crusty metal and wake up on dusty wood. The sound of my wind chimes alert me into consciousness. My eyes snap open, my retinas are immediately burned by the color that floods into them. Pretty. Why is the music so pretty right now? Why is it pretty? A little concerned, a little terrified of what could be. On the floor in front of me is a kaleidoscope of lights created by the morning sun. A stark contrast to the dark and dreary setting I was previously confined to. Maybe I dreamed it all in a feverish haze. Oh, but I see there's a collar and leash thing right behind the text box. Can I move this? I forget which button I would need to do. And might as well make a save. But I don't know if you could see it. You probably can see it. Yeah. I check on the gauze around my arm. It's still there. A weight around my neck brings me back into focus. The collar is secured around my throat. Attached to it is a long and heavy chain that leads to the leg of a large wardrobe in the corner of the room. The bedroom. I take in my latest cage. There are no longer venomous bars to keep me, but the state of confinement has not changed. My eyes move from the rainbows on the floor to the lines of the chain restraining me, and into the rest of the room. I look at the window and find swirling murals and expressive paintings of various creatures and monsters. Oh yeah, good point. You can see that. Like, I'm guessing Dove's the one who did the lovely scribbling. The sun behind them illuminates the floor with speckles of colors, like a stained glass mirror. I mean, not mirror, window. Past the frame of the window, the drawings continue in nonsensical scrawl. Less art decorates the walls, but the shelves with cracked paint, plant pots, and hanging tangles of ivy take their place. Dirty cups and bowls sit forgotten in a darkened corner. I briefly note 2 shallow dishes near where I lay. They look like they were used to buy a pet. Judging from the surprising lack of grime from under them, it hasn't been that long since they were last used. We already got a weird, ominous threat that other people have been taken. Dusty books and crumpled parchment litter the floorboards. Taking up half of the room is a canopied bed. Dark curtains are pulled tightly together, preventing me from seeing inside. The sound of scratching captures my attention. I drag my gaze past piles of books. There, sitting on a raggedy blanket, hunched over and scribbling over the print in a book, is Dove. She gnaws at her lip and pinches her brows. I can hear her whispering something to herself. No. That won't work. Slowly lift myself off the floor, cringing at the sound of the clanking chains following my movement. Dove makes no move acknowledging my presence, so I continue to approach her. When I'm closer to her back, I'm able to get a better look at what she's fiercely writing. Oh. Scribbles of occult symbols makes the words on the page completely illegible. I swallow a lump in my throat. The collar around my neck feels even heavy, very heavy now. Rip! Dove suddenly tears a page out of the book. The jarring sound makes me jump, and I slam into a tower of books, sending it toppling to the floor. Dread weighs heavily on me. I look back at Dove. She's now staring at me with wide eyes. You're awake. I release a small yelp and stare at her dumbfounded. She's brighter. Or maybe it's the luminous light filtering through the bedroom window. Something about it paints her in a rose-tinted lens that makes my weariness waver. That feeling instantly vanishes when she gets up and rushes towards me. I run away as fast as my legs allow me, but my air supply is abruptly cut off and I'm thrown off my feet. A sharp howl is pulled from my throat. I look behind me and I see the chain on my collar is pulled taut. I've reached its limit. I then see Stubb standing in the spot I bolted from. Her gaze creeps along the chain, making its way to my crumpled form. Icy blue eyes stare into mine. I shudder. I feel like she could unravel me through sight alone. She looks at me like she knows. Then she perks up, snapping the tension away. Oh right, you're probably starving. The others were also skittish when they had empty bellies. Others? Who are those? A voice trails off as though she's become lost in thought. She starts weaving through the mess of book piles to reach the bedroom door. Wait here. I don't have much of a choice. Dove returns with a bread roll and bowl. She sets the bowl down a couple feet in front of me and retreats back to chew on her own food. I tentatively approach it. The bread smells like heaven. I lick my lips on instinct. It must have been ages since I last ate, because I watch her tear chunks from it and mark every little crumb falling off her white dress with yearning. I look down on the bowl she left for me. The sight of red, fleshy chunks greet me. Raw meat. She gave me a bowl of raw meat. I can't eat this. Well, maybe I could? But the idea has nausea coursing through me. Stare at the fresh blood pooling at the blowed bottom of the bowl. I glance over at the bread, and then back down at the bowl, feeling confounded. My stomach growls. Feel saliva starting to drip down the side of my mouth. I can't do it. Are you gonna let it go to waste? Dove's voice comes from right above me, and fear flutters in my stomach. Okay then. My eyes snap up. Dove reaches for me and I flinch, scattering away. She kneels in front of the bowl and dips her hand to it, crushing a fistful of squishy red meat between her fingers. She brings the raw meat to her mouth. Watch her eat it. Bile rises in my throat as I watch her chew through the raw flesh and swallow it with a slickly gulp. She covers her mouth with the back of her hand and gags, and then looks at me. She smiles at me, and her teeth are stained with a glistening red. What a horrible taste. A thin stream of blood falls from the corner of her mouth. I suppose you'd like something a bit more appetizing? Why, yes. She gags again and then runs out of the room. I hear the sound of her retching from another room. Dove returns with a new bowl with what looks like stew. She inspects it thoroughly, checking for insects or anything inedible. When I surmise there's nothing of the sort, I dig in greedily. My eyes begin to sting from the first couple of bites. The stew is so bland. It makes me yearn for my grandmother's cooking so badly. From the corner of my eye, I can see Dove watching me like a hawk. Eat the food! Eat the food! Like all it takes is a simple blink for me to disappear. If only I could. As I finished eating the stew, a soft thudding captured my attention. I looked back to see my tail wagging against the floor. I feel myself shrink with embarrassment. I merely cease its movement, but not before Dove takes notice. Looks like your energy is returned. I'm a happy dog. Her eyes move to my arm. Does it still hurt? I stare at Dove, then hesitantly put my weight on my wrapped arm. The sharp pain is almost gone. The dull ache still remains. If the opportunity for me to run away came, I could probably do it, but not without difficulty. I make a frustrated whine. Dove tilts her head at me, considering my reply. She approaches me again, slowly this time. I hold my breath as she comes close, her hand hovering near the collar around my neck. I'm suddenly hyper-aware of how quiet it is. There is no drum of rain or crack of thunder to be heard from the outside. Hope dares to grow inside my racing heart. Will you hurt me if I take it off? Answer. I shake my head slightly. Ooh, almost missed that timer. Dove gives me a curious look. Her hands hover for a short moment, but then she nods. The weight to the collar lifts off my shoulders. Then I bolt. My swift escape shoves Dove aside. I rarely see her get thrown to the floor as I make for the open bedroom door. Dove makes a panic noise behind me. It fades out in my rush to leave her behind. But I'm back into the hallway where the horrors began. I need to get back to the kitchen. I sprint to the stairs. Then suddenly I'm skidding to a stop when a wall meets me at the end of the hall instead of a staircase. I stare in confusion. Did I go the wrong way? I look around the hall. I don't remember seeing this many doors. A sinking feeling unravels in my gut. I run down a new hallway, then turn into another, and then another. My exploration of the manor were cut short when I first arrived, so maybe I can't remember everything well enough. I swear, there were not the same halls I walked through before. After I turned into the 15th hall in this new labyrinth, the sound of something being dragged cuts off my thoughts. I look behind me, fear pulsating in my veins. A ghostly figure slowly walks down the cross-section of another hall. Hi. Long hair protrudes from its head, running down the floor stiffly like straw and hiding most of its long, thin limbs. I watch it disappear around the corner, completely frozen in my spot. Another ghost. I've never seen one this corrupted before. I now feel extremely vulnerable, like a beacon standing in the long, open corridor. Tapping noise is next. My heart pounds violently in my chest as I search for the sound. And I immediately see another ghost heading straight for me. I yelp and crush myself against the wall as if it will make me invisible. Holy I don't like that. The ghost staggers towards me with bony knees knocking together. A thin veil curtains its upper body, and something that resembles a beak of a bird peeks out of its chest. The closer it gets, the better I'm able to make out the details of its leathery skin, the beady, bloodshot eyes that drapple across its face, above the rotting beak. Needle-thin arms bend sharply at the elbow and reach back behind the ghost's head. It balances on its elbows and pulls itself forward on them. I make myself paper thin and shiver when part of its elbow brushes against one of my paws. Ew. I start breathing again when it passes quietly and back away into the intersection of halls. Another ghost almost tramples me. Two ghosts follow one another down the path of the bird-like ghosts. These are some scary figures. One is a cluster of what looks like fungi and twisting fabric that melts into burnt beef flesh. A stringy network of mycelium trails behind it. The other creates a sound of grass crunching together with every step it takes. Its arms stick out of pieces of wood that slightly swing as it walks. Where the face should be is a void, framed by jagged, broken pieces of porcelain skin. I can make out the ragged maid uniform that clings to its bloated form. I follow the ghosts in a trance. Oh, these are so creepy. These are honestly very creepy. Maybe we should have stuck with Dove. I feel like Dove was not as terrifying as it could be. Like a line of school children, they walk along a well-known path. Normally, when a ghost is corrupted from being trapped in the land of the living, every semblance of their humanity is lost. So where do these ghosts stalk to with so much purpose? They navigate the hallways without hesitation, twisting and turning through a route already well worn. And so painfully easy. I have been led back to the kitchen. Hi, Dove. Hey. So about that escaping. Oops. I see Dove standing on the kitchen table, delicately twisting an incandescent bulb into the hanging light fixture. Dried black tears stain her cheeks, but her expression betrays no sign of dejection. Another bulb is held loosely in her other hand. This one has been burnt out so badly that no light can penetrate its ashy, blackened surface. It took 40 years to develop this type of filament. The ghosts surround her. This is scary. I watch them reach for her, and then I open my jaw to bark out a warning. But I choke out my rising panic. Dove doesn't notice them and continues to screw in the bulb. I read that these bulbs can stay lit for up to 1,200 hours. Claws brush against her skirt. And yet, after less than a week, their legacy of lighting, the dark has been snubbed out forever. With one last turn of her wrist, light envelops the room. Something so wonderful. Dove stares into the bulb's light, and her fingers caress the glass. Only breaks in a place like this. I'm getting really freaked out by you. The ghosts have vanished. Dove gives no hint of awareness of the presence that had just left them. And blood thuds in my ears. Could she not see them, or does she have no actual worry over them? I look at the door that I used to enter the mansion. I hear Dove dust off her hands and toss the old bulb into a box, where it shatters amongst other pieces of glass. Yeah. She sighs wearily. How long will this cycle continue for? I barely hear her words. Instead, I stare at the wall, where the back door should be. And there is no door. I immediately freak out. I run to the wall, ignoring the ache of my arm, and scratch at old wallpaper, hoping the door was only hidden beneath it. My claws tear through the wood, but I continue scratching. The outline of a door does not reveal itself. I back away, staring at the shredded decoration, and breathe rapidly. It's not there anymore. I turn my head up and see Dove sitting on the kitchen table, swinging her legs. She stares at the wall I had torn up and gives a blank expression. I explode. My body ignites with fiery rage as I growl and snarl at her. She frowns and her eyes turn downcast with guilt. I don't know how to get it back. Attack her. Force her to help. Hey, let's do that. I look past Dove and see the window. I perk up. The window. We can break it. I pause and take note of how far the window is from the floor. Well, maybe not me. Dove sits at the table looking bored. I take a deep breath. Fuck. Dove jumps and her eyes swivel down at me. What? I point my nose at the window, and it takes Dove a second to understand my gesture. She blinks and then turns her head to the window. Her lip frowns in confusion. The window? She looks down at me with furrowed brows. What about it? My tail wags beneath me. I ignore it and look around for something that'll help her understand what I want. I spot a stool underneath the table. My ears stand straight up. Dove leans over and watches me drag the stool out with my teeth. I throw my body weight behind to pull it out until it falls over. And then I look at Dove and point my snout at the window again. She hops off the table and picks up the stool. She holds it up, still wearing a befuddled expression. You want me to... She raises a brow at me. Put it by the window? I huff. Throw it at the window? Yeep. I nod and my tail wags quickly. Dove looks at the window hesitantly. She stares at the reflection in the glass. I've never tried breaking the windows before. Dove stumbles slightly when I grab the bottom of her dress to lead her to it. When I feel her slight resistance, I look up and Dove's face appears paler than I thought was possible. I see her swallow before she starts moving on her own. She climbs onto the counter with the stool in hand, slips slightly in her grip, and she wipes her hand on her dress. She raises the stool and my heart starts to quicken. The stool comes down, then stops. I whine in confusion. Dove stares into the window with wide eyes. I follow her line of sight, then see it. A pale hand grips Dove's arm. I look past and let out a sharp cry. Dove's reflection stares back with blackened eyes and a wide, distorted smile that leaks dark bile. I can see Dove's hands tremble, and then the reflection speaks. That girl, you should know better by now. Ice spreads through my veins. I hear Dove's breath hitch. And I hear something else. Tiny wooden footsteps fill the silence. I stay completely still and slowly slide my pupils to see small flutters of movement from the shadows of my peripheral. I hold my breath. The footsteps start to grow louder. I hear Dove hiccup and my eyes slide back to her panic. The reflection crosses Dove's wrist, black webs spread from where they touch. Beady eyes crinkle at its grin, stretches wider, and it blows Dove cling closer until their foreheads almost touch. Behave, Dove. The reflection barks out a howling laugh and then shoves Dove away from the window. Dove shrieks and flares her arms. I yelp and throw myself under her to soften her fall. Basil, you're being so sweet. She crushes me with her weight and we fall into a messy heap on the floor. A vision swirls, my whole body rages in agony. Sound of the reflection laughter fading away, the wooden feet starts to retreat to my relief. When we recover again, Dove stands on shaky legs, and I can see her trying to control the haunted expression she wears. She holds her wrists, and black veins now fade from where the reflection had touched her. I let her soft, oh. She got hurt because of me. She stumbles to the table and plants herself back on top of it. I whimper and go back to scratch the door more in desperation. I'm sorry. Enough. I'm tired of seeing you wallow in your despair. I reply with an indignant huff. See Dove puff her cheeks in annoyance. I turn my head away and rest it on my paws. There's no way out, and it's better for you to just accept it. Growl rumbles in my throat. Even the front door is gone, so instead of wasting time, you may as well follow me and keep yourself occupied. I wish I could cry. My ears lay flat against my skull. I've landed myself right in the mouth of a carnivorous flower with the sweetness of shelter to lure me in. And I never considered whether it would let me go once I treaded past its sharp teeth. I take a peek at Dove. She doesn't seem to have any problem with being a caged bird. Is she comfortable living in these conditions that she can't even see how wrong it is? How can anyone possibly live like this? Her patience reaches its end and she slides off the kitchen table. I cry it when she hauls me from the ground, and I bare my fangs at her when her face appears right before mine. My glare doesn't faze her. Follow, wolf. There is much to do. Okay, I guess we got stuff to do. We return to the labyrinth of hallways. Dove seems to know her way around them well. Not I'm not frantically running through them. I notice how different the atmosphere of the manor is. Less dirt coats the floor, ceiling lights illuminate the hallways. It almost feels peaceful. Dove stops by a closet in the hallway. She grabs onto the handle of the doors and it opens to reveal shelves and cupboards of miscellaneous tools and supplies. She climbs a stool to reach the highest shelf, and retrieves a box of small buckets and brushes. The stool she stands on starts to sway and I tense. She climbs back down without issue, and then leads me into a room I recognize. So is this like a game, or is this a demon? What is going on? Candles. Huh. She makes her way to the broken side table I spotted when I first started exploring the rooms of the mansion. And I take the time to look around. That's pretty creepy. You're realizing all these mirrors you can see the outside. And I mean, that makes sense reflection-wise, but it definitely makes a creepy sensation. A dining table with only 3 chairs take up most of the room. Candles spike up from the top like stalagmites. There's so many that I think they would render a fire hazard if they were to be all lit. Hardened wax drops onto the edge. I can see the end of a fountain pen, as well as scraps of paper. Unable to see the well of my ink from my position, but I assume that is what runs down the dusty tablecloth in dark splotches. Hopefully not blood. A glint catches my attention. On the other side of the room, I'm unsettled by the mirrors that cover the wall from floor to ceiling. I swallow a lump that forms in my throat, and I do not let my eyes linger on them. I lay on the floor and watch her slather strongly scented glue on the broken leg of the table. She roughly connects the broken leg to the rest of the table and fans it with her hand so it dries faster. She tests its sturdiness with a light finger and scrunches her nose when it wobbles. She twists around and digs in her box, and then pulls out a roll of twine with a bright expression on her face.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
A burr of furrows together. Dove twirls a string around the leg, and it binds it tightly. When she's done, she sees the table straight again. It rocks unsteadily. It says it holds. Seam of it good enough for Dove. She quickly picks up the box again and gives it a nod. I'm scared. Something just broke. I leapt from my spot on the floor and spin to a loud noise. In the corner of the room, the long-haired ghost from earlier stands bent over a broken vase. I flinch when Dove lets out a startled noise and starts to stride towards it. What? I bark in alarm. What are you doing? It's dangerous. She ignores me. Ziri. I grab the back of her gown with my teeth to stab her. Dove's demeanor goes from angry to taken aback. She stops and looks down at me. I shock myself at my own actions and quickly drop her skirt. Dove considers me for a moment, and then switches her attention back to the ghost and marches over to him. You klutz. So is everyone just trapped here and you're just chill with it? My jaw drops. I don't need another person to clean up after. The ghost laces its long fingers together and bows its head. When Dove gets closer to it, she stumbles and cries out. Ghost snaps its head back to her. Dove checks the bottom of her feet and sees a shard embedded in the flesh. Red blooms from the small wound. The ghost makes a groaning sound and steps toward Dove. She hisses when it walks through the mess of glass and drags it with them. It's concerned for her? I observe their interaction befuddled. So, is she even a threat, or is this a matter of just everyone's destroyed mentally? Everything I know about corrupted ghosts is being challenged. Are they corrupted? I pause to think about how the ghost rushed to her side earlier. The ghost tugs on Dove's sleeve like it's asking for forgiveness. She continues to badger it while digging the shard out of her foot. Study them curiously. It wasn't because I wanted to cause her harm. I trail behind Dove when she leaves to treat the small cut and when she returns to clean up the mess. We leave the ghost and Dove continues down whatever to-do list she has in her mind. When she paints over the scratches on the kitchen door, trying to match the old wallpaper, she speaks to me. Have you met them all already? Oh. Maybe some backstory? She doesn't speak again until we run into another ghost. The fungi. It waits in the hallway for Dove. She perks up when she sees what it's holding. Oh, thank you, Babble. I mean... How long have you been trapped here? Is this even punishment? Is this something else? We are very, very lost on what are the actual happenings here. She takes a small bundle of red roses from it, freshly torn from its bush, because then what the heck was the scene we saw with the flowers and everything? Something else is going on. I follow her to a window and see a tall, thin glass vase with withered rose in it sitting on the sill. Dove takes out the dead flowers and replaces them. Then she pauses and looks down at something below. Her face reveals nothing as she tears her gaze away and makes her way down the hall again. Before following her, I stand on my haunches and try to peer out the window. Boy, a chill comes down on me when I look down and see a small patch of graves, each marked by a small wooden cross. I break away from the unnerving sight and turn towards the hall where Dove had gone down. She stands at the end of the hall, waiting for me. Is everything good? You're kind of freaking me out. There's some ominous implications you're bringing up. The bird-like ghost's name is Grell, and the doll-like ghost's name is Audette. Dove introduced them officially when we run into them as we go around the manor doing mundane tasks. It's a sight I can't get used to. I can't understand how a young girl can act so normal around such monstrous beings. I mean, to what I'm picking up, this is a world that monsters and humans, ghosts and corruption, possession, things of this nature aren't out of the question. And yet, there's still something else not being revealed that's truly horrible. Seeing their translucent, leathery skin or the fluid that drips from their decaying flesh is enough to send me reeling. But she does not flinch or fear. Earlier, when they had surrounded her in the kitchen, she could tell they were there. weaving their arms together to wrap her in a ghostly embrace. And she didn't care in the slightest. I start to think she's more disturbed than the ghosts. To become this corrupt, they would have had to stay trapped in this plane for a long time. Why are they still here? Their horrific forms border on pitiful. To be this far gone, it has to be some type of hell. Dove walks among them like they are her family, though. No, that's not quite it. I reconsider my thoughts. Maybe. The image of the graves flashes in my mind. It's because she is theirs. I watch her guide Grell's gangly limbs out of the hall so they can pass through, if they're nothing but an annoying sibling. A monster, just like them. Maybe this cage she lives in is her own making. Dove does these errands like a routine, putting books away in the library and cleaning up candles burned to the end of their wicks. By the time she finishes, winding up a large grandfather clock in the hallway, the manor feels like a completely different place. The air is less stifled by dust particles, the rooms are brighter, and it feels like a home now. As we walk back to Dove's room, the sun begins its ascent into the blazing orange horizon. The evening cicadas make their shrill voices heard. Despite the manor feeling more livable, there's a feeling it gives me that I cannot shake. A void that looms like a presence. It's like letters left unfinished, or tea half empty turning cold. There's a sense of stagnation that places this manor outside of time's reach, and it leaves a noise that buzzes persistently in the air. Dove stops abruptly, and I almost trip over my paws trying not to run into her. I take a peek from behind her and immediately let out a yelp. The very first ghost I had met stands at the end of the hall. Yeah, squishy lady. Dove doesn't move. I see the ghost stagger down the halls towards us, and I instinctively backed away. Then Dove speaks. It's okay. I'm not reassured in the slightest. The ghost gets closer, and I can see the details of her leaking entrails. I let her make a whimpering sound and hide behind Dove, keeping myself close to the wall. She is harmless. She doesn't do anything. Throw a quick glance at Dove when her voice falters. But watch. The ghost is right beside us. Its milky eyes look down at Dove, and she holds its unseeing gaze with cold eyes. I don't breathe, but the sour smell of rot overwhelms my heightened sense of smell. Tension between Dove and the ghost creates a pressure that thins the air, making my lungs ache for oxygen. Urgh. Pain seizes my chest just when I can no longer hold my breath in. The ghost continues down the hall passively. I exhale loudly. I startle when Dove clenches her fists beside me. Her eyes follow the ghost for a couple seconds longer. Then she cuts off her stare and moves on. I quickly chase after her, not wanting to be alone with this particular ghost again, ever again, if my luck allows it. I look back for a split second, and the ghost has disappeared. Dove's shoulders are squared as we return to her room. Since the sun has set in the opposite direction of her window, the scattering colors from the window is long gone. Her relationship with the hallway ghost is much different than the others. The way she spoke about her almost seemed resentful. I pad to the corner, stalling for a moment when I see the collar from earlier on the floor. I narrow my eyes at it and pick it up with my teeth. Then I throw it at the far wall. I give the collar one last glare and then curl up on the floor. Dove settles cross-legged in the middle of her book towers and reaches for a random text. I let out a big yawn, feeling heavy after the events of the day. I don't know if it's enough time in the world to process everything that's happened to me since I left home. I close my eyes and feel the tendrils of sleep curl around me. Do you think people can come back from the dead? She asks it so quietly, I almost don't hear her. I don't think she expects an answer, and I cannot give her one. Dove's roses. The bites. Oh, it's Dove's perspective, so what's going on here? Because we were here earlier, and that was not as bloody red and dripping as it once was. So what's going on? Hi. I wince at the bites. The roses are extremely hungry today. What do you mean hungry? It's been long since I fed them, but their petals have bleached white. I watch as my blood saturates the colorless flowers and narrow my eyes when I spot a parasitic fungi at the base of the bush. Part of the bush is already starting to wither because of it. I reach down and tear the terrible thing out. I know more will sprout in its place, but I refuse to leave such a blight near my creation. I walk to a different section of the greenhouse and throw it right next to the corpse of the fungi's latest victim. What? My heart clenches at the sight. Its eyes are still open. Huh? I press my fingers down to the lids of the dead wolf, but it's too late. The terror on its face is already cemented into time. My fingers curl and my nails stab into my palms, making the bite sting. I return to the rose bush and continue to feed them. Thunder and lightning thrash above me. Will it lure in another pitiful soul tonight? I hear a door slam and I flinch, crushing a bulb in my hand. My ears listen intently, searching for lingering traces of his presence. When I find none, I take a deep breath and finally let myself relax. I tear the bulb from its stem and my hand falls to my sides. The sound of the rain is so clear now, as I close my eyes to let it wash out everything else. I relish in the violets against the roof of the greenhouse, tremble under the crisp cracks of thunder. To pass the time, now that it's mine again, I whisper something my mother taught me under my breath. Then I hear a whimper come from behind me. Was that a perspective right before we meet Dove? Because then, was that supposed to be a foreshadowing of our player character Basil? There's something else going on. Oh, there's so much going on. But yeah, this was a fantastic demo. Alvy the Wizard made excellent music, okay? Seraphine, the art, the story, the coding. Vivi Contrast doing editing. The little ambient sounds, eh? Surprise, there's a lot of like little random things in the back. But hey, that was pretty creepy. We had a good time. Bye-bye.